So, as promised, we can start now. And as you have been informed in advance, the whole training is going to be recorded for your information. So I would like to warmly welcome you. I am Ashkan Grigoryan, the Executive Director with Digital Communication Network. Digital Communication Network, DCN, is a strong collaborative network of over 7,000 worldwide spread experts in digital sphere. We connect people, we connect minds, we connect ideas, and we generate products with our strong partners, NGOs, experts all over the world. Today, you have joined one of our very important projects that we are doing in partnership with Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, South Caucasus, and in partnership with our partner World Learning from State Department. So the project that you have been joined and you have been communicated in advance, the whole project agenda. This is digital literacy trainings for journalism students and journalists in Armenia and Georgia. So throughout the training, you are going to get to know basics and not only of digital and media literacy. We are going to tackle the very important and global issue that the whole world is witnessing, the disinformation, and we are going to learn together how to effectively debunk and combat this issue, the disinformation. We are going to also learn and how to create innovative forms and how to create very engaging social media campaigns to fight disinformation. And you are going to have a very interesting masterclass on entrepreneurial journalism and have some basics about internet, how to secure yourself on the internet, and very interesting topic, and that we will have from our partners CRI from Lithuania, Vilnius. And the trainer, the masterclass will be on Kremlin disinformation campaigns. So I will not take much of your time today, and I would like to give the floor to our partner and the head of Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom, Caucasus office, Mr. Bochman, and Armen also, the Armenian office representative and head, will say a couple of words. Thank you to all of you for being with us. Mr. Bochman, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good afternoon to everybody. A very special good afternoon I extend to you, Ashkan, and also to Sherri, who is today's resource person or speaker. I welcome all of you on behalf of Friedrich Naumann Foundation for Freedom. You might know this is a German foundation. We have in Germany a system of having a couple of such political foundations. And all these foundations are close to the parties in the parliament, but close does not mean that we are directly connected with the parties. We are only close to them. So we, as a liberal foundation, we are close to the Liberal Party in Germany. This is the Free Democratic Party, and the party is also represented in the parliament. But again, all these foundations are working independently, and they have state money, public money. So this is taxpayers' money, what we can use for our activities. And our goal is to spread liberal ideas of freedom in Germany, but also worldwide. So we are working in more than 60 countries all over the world. And one of our offices is based in Tbilisi. I'm the head of this Tbilisi office. And as Ashkan already has said, we also have a small office in Yerevan. Armen will tell you a little bit more about that. Here in the region, we are working together with partners. This is our policy. We don't organize so many activities on our own. Most activities are organized through our partners. And of course, we work together as a liberal foundation. We also work together with liberal parties in Georgia, also in Azerbaijan, by the way, also in Armenia. Nevertheless, most of our partners are NGOs, and I'm very happy that we also have DCN as one of our partners. By the way, on the last weekend, we had another seminar also for journalists, because training for journalists is a little bit our focus. Journalists are our target group. So in this seminar in Tbilisi, we could welcome journalists from Armenia, Georgia, and also Azerbaijan, because we also want to bring the journalists from all the three countries together, because I think it's very important that especially Armenians and Azerbaijanians come a little bit closer together to solve the problems they have. But nevertheless, today we have another training, namely for Georgians and Armenians. And I'm very happy that Ashken and DCN had the idea for that seminar. So again, I welcome all of you, and I wish you a nice training on this weekend and also on the next weekends. I hope you learn a lot, and I hope also that you create new networks, because it's very important that especially journalists work together and find ways to report in a very objective way about their political situations in their countries and other situations, social situations. That's very important. Thank you again for organizing this seminar, Ashken, and nice weekend for all of you.
Thank you, Mr. Bochmann.
Hello, everyone. As Ashken told, I will be the next speaker after Mr. Bochmann, and I'm Armen, and I know some people. I know Anahit, with whom we work through another organization, and some other people I know, at least from our contracts with DCN, because we never met in person. But so we have a small office in Yerevan with 2 people, Lucine and I, and I hope we will have an opportunity to meet in person, because we have many ongoing projects, and we will ask Ashken to share. Actually, we shared already, but if you don't mind, we would like to invite to some of our activities of our partners and organized by us, so you can learn more about what we do, because actually there are very interesting projects going on, and we are going to have several activities in November and by the end of October. Concerning the training, I'm sure this is like this is the very, very crazy times, because the world is changing very, very fast, and we are in a critical situation. And I know in Armenia we have another huge issue, which is the war last year, and the aftermath, what happened after the war, and these unsolved issues. And now we have all the time a lot of disinformation, misinformation, and taking into account that we have people who are working in the fields who can actually have a positive impact on combating disinformation and misinformation. This is a very good opportunity to know each other, and also to resolve some of the major issues. This is the ethical issue, because sometimes we don't have these regulations, and I hope by this meeting, by knowing each other and joining some other networks, you will be able to fight disinformation and have a positive impact, because actually you are public figures and you are going to create opinions by your activities. And I'm sure this seminar is very well organized, not very heavy. It's on weekends, but it's not like all day long, because I don't know if you like Zoom or not. I'm not a great fan of Zoom. And to see it like for 5 hours in front of Zoom, even with short breaks, it's awful. But in this case, we have like 3 hours mainly, which is enough. With some breaks, you definitely survive, and taking into account the interesting topics and the interesting speakers. I hope this 1 month would be a great opportunity to everyone. So thank you very much. I hope we'll meet in near future. And for our Georgian participant, you know Mr. Bochman now, and you can also connect to Georgian office, and we will share also your contacts with them, so you can learn about what's done in Georgia. Actually, it's much more visible what is done in Georgia because we have a bigger team, and you may have met some of them. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Armenjon. So our project coordinator, Ala, will say a couple of words to you, and we can already start with our moderators and country representatives, Teona and Aren. Sherri, dear, thank you very much for keeping with us with this intro. Thank you for being with us. Alajan, the floor is yours.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Digital Media Literacy Training course. I'm Ala Mugarchan, a project officer at Digital Communication Network, and it is my pleasure to meet you all here. You can feel free to contact me if you have any questions. I would like to give the floor to Aren and Teona. They will be moderators and contact persons for you. Please meet them now. Aren?
Aren, you can go ahead. Okay, so hi everyone, I'm Teona. I will be a contact person for Georgian participants, but feel free, all of you, to reach out to me if you have any questions. But in case Georgian participants have any kind of language barrier, or I don't know, would like to share their thoughts to a local person for some reason, then I will be a person to reach out to, and I will be glad to help you out as much as I can. Yeah, so I will use this chance and thank you all. I know that because this is we're living in a digital world, we are on our computers and mobiles for throughout the week, and thank you for choosing to apply for this course and spend your weekends via Zoom as well. But I am pretty sure that this course will meet your expectations content-wise, but I would also advise you to use this opportunity to create connections, because Georgia and Armenia, they are small countries. So Georgian journalists know Georgian journalists more or less, and the same case is Armenian. And this is a unique chance for you to meet people outside of your country. So this is a great chance to even start cultural collaboration. So use this chance and good luck.
Thank you, dear. Aren, the floor is yours, and we pass to Sherri.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aren, the Armenian representative of the program, and I'll be your contact person. I'm a journalist myself, and I was a part of the program Mr. Bochman was telling you a couple of minutes ago for journalists from Armenia, Georgia, and Azerbaijan. And myself, I'm trying not to miss any opportunity like this to have connections with journalists from the region, because it's very important, both on the personal level in your career. It's very essential. So I really hope that you'll get the most of this program, not only in the sense of knowledge of media literacy and all the related interests, but also human contacts. So I really think that I really hope that you will enjoy it. If you have any questions, I don't know, that's a language issue or something else, most of you have my contacts on social media, and also you can be in touch with me right here. So I think this is enough for me for this moment. I've already got a chance to introduce myself in the chat. So now I'll pass the floor to Ms. Sherri Culver. She's associate professor at Temple University, and she's gonna be our lecturer today. Have a nice time.
Hello, everyone. It's so wonderful to be with you and to see you. It's very early here. It is about a little after 6 a.m. Lucky for you, I am a morning person, so I'm very awake. And I was drinking my coffee before, but it's decaffeinated because this energy is not good with caffeine. So I'm very glad to be here with you. And I actually also want to say two other things. One is I so appreciate that we are speaking in English. I know that is not the first language for most of you, perhaps all of you. And it's really, I'm very conscious of that when I travel and I have an opportunity to speak with folks. So please I don't want you to hesitate at all in worrying about your English in any way. We're going to share information on the chat. I'm encouraging you to ask questions. And I know that if you struggle with English, we have several people on here who would be more than willing to help you. So I hope that everyone will participate. I also, I do teach quite a bit on Zoom, of course, and I don't want to require everyone to turn on their camera, but if you find it in your heart to turn your camera on, if you've ever done a presentation and looked upon a sea of black boxes with white names, you know how just sad that really is. So if you can do that, that's wonderful. I know that will not be possible for everyone, and that's okay, but when you can, that's appreciated. So I'm going to share my screen. I have a PowerPoint that I'll work alongside, and really it helps me stay on track with things. So I will do that. And I'm sure we're going to make this available to you after. So our theme for today and tomorrow is media literacy for all. Oh, let's see, there we go. I am a bit obsessed with Bitmojis, so you will see them every once in a while. That is my little Bitmoji for today. So the very first thing I would really like to do is just so that I get a sense. So that's where I am. I'm in Philadelphia in the United States. And I know that you are, some of you are you're in a certain region, right? But you're in different places. I'm curious about first where you are and what you do when you're not here. And I know that some of you are students and some of you are running programs. So if you could take a moment and put into the chat a little bit, just, a little bit about yourself would be wonderful, just so I can get a sense of who's on. If you are a student, are you a graduate student? What are you studying? Just a sentence, right? Just a sentence would be wonderful. Everybody could take just a moment and add to the chat. I'm just going to babble on a little bit here to give you an opportunity to add some information some information about yourself. Nini, did you have a question?
Should we write our introduction on chat, or we may say? Oh.
Well, we have the floor now, so you could say it, but because there's a lot of us on and we won't have a lot of time to do that.
Okay.
But why don't you share it now, because we're speaking, and that's great. And then others, if you can add it into the chat box, into your chat, that would be wonderful. Go ahead.
I'm Nini. I'm from Georgia. I study international relations at university, but I worked as a journalist for a year in regional television. It was one of the region in Georgia. So it's a real pleasure to listen lectures here. Thank you, in US.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you as well. So I'm not seeing anyone else writing in chat. I don't know if that's because we're not sure about using that. I'm going to stop sharing for just a moment because I'm probably going to ask you several times to add things to chat. So I just want to make sure that everybody's clear that at the very bottom of your screen, you should see a little box that says chat on it. And then you can just type in there and add a little bit of information. So I'd love to hear a little bit. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, it's wonderful. See, I would not have assumed that someone was in Norway. So that's great to know. I actually had the opportunity, while you're adding that, I'll just say I had the opportunity to go to Armenia this past year. So it was actually my very first, flight and travel, like in probably almost 2 years. And I went to Yerevan. That was my first trip, and we got to meet Ash when I went there. So that was wonderful. And was working with did some work with the Public Journalism Club there. So if anybody's familiar with the Public Journalism Club. And I don't know if I met any of you there. If I did, please let me know. And if anyone is, so if you're a journalist, if there's a particular area that you focus on, that would be terrific to know. If if you're doing news, or are you doing entertainment? Are you doing local news? Do you talk about, are you more focused on world news? That's, Anna, that's so interesting to be a fact check journalist. Thank you, right? That we have somebody doing that. All right, so as you add that, I'll keep checking back with that. It's really helpful to get a better sense of who is here. And I can monitor, I'll keep an eye on the chat all the time. So if you have a question and you want to raise a hand and ask it verbally, you can do that. But if you prefer to put something in the chat, I will try to make sure to stay, to watch that as well. So these are some of the things that I am involved in right now. I know you can just Google search me and find out information. So I won't tell you about all of this. I wanted to just focus on two things. The first is that the one piece that's not on this screen is that I worked in the media industry for 25 years before I started working for Temple University, before I became a professor. And I came up through the public television side of the field, and I was a producer. So I was a production assistant, and then an assistant producer, a producer, and then an executive producer, and eventually ran a television station for several years, and worked with with PBS, if you're familiar with public broadcasting in the United States, and the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, and then came to Temple University. And so the work that you're looking at on the screen there is all work that I've been doing since I came to Temple. I run a center at Temple called the Center for Media and Information Literacy. And that center and I have an ongoing relationship with UNESCO. So we're part of a university collaborative. There's lots of acronyms in UNESCO land, so I won't bore you with a lot of that. But one area we're involved in is this university group that's a media and information literacy group. And the other is through the Global Media and Information Literacy Alliance. And the Alliance is something that you can join if you wanted to. So I'll mention more about that later. And the other is that I'll just mention on the screen here is the little box that says Kids Talk Media. So Kids Talk Media is a podcast that I started doing. I actually started about a year before we all went into quarantine, where I focused quite a bit on children and children's media and how children use media. And so this is an interview show where I interview two best friends who are under age 13. So between probably like 6 years old and 12 years old, and talk to them about their media use. So if you're interested, they're accessible wherever if you're listening to podcasts through Apple or Spotify or other, it's on many, many different podcast providers. All right, I've lost my little cursor. Oh, here it is. So I want you to start thinking for a minute about what I'm going to call your mediated life. This is a picture of my mediated life, and it probably isn't even all of it. And so we're going to talk about media literacy, and a key element of media literacy is reflecting on how media affects you. And you might think that because many of you work in media, that you do that automatically. But it's been my experience that actually, as someone who teaches about it all the time, I find that even I have to be put in check sometimes to think about how I use media and how it's affecting me, and all of the different ways in which I'm connecting with media. So you can see in each of those little circles is a category: music, photos, how I read, what I use when I'm working, games I like to play, television that I like to watch with my family, my social media, my shopping that I do is so connected in every way to media. And so I want you to start plotting. You don't need to necessarily share this. You don't need to put it in the chat or anything, but I want you to think about what are the ways in which media comes between you and other things you do in your life. Part of being media literate is being conscious. A big part of being media literate is being conscious of the influence that media has in your life. I'm going to spend some time in this first, let's say, first quarter of today, spending time talking about what media literacy is, how we define it. I want to make sure that we're all starting at the same place. Some of you could probably teach this and know it very, very well. And others you might have a way that you think about it for yourself, but could you explain it to someone else? And part of my goal is for you to have the information you need to be able to share what you learn here in other environments. So, right. So I want to make sure that you have a way to talk about that. And all the ways that you play, post, download, stream, all of those things. So our goals today, I have 3 goals for today. First is to clarify the meaning and scope of media literacy. I want to encourage you to take on some creative approaches to media literacy education, how you share it with others. And I would include journalism in that, and inspire action, right? So you're here and you're listening, but I really want you to go forth and use this in your lives. So when you think about, I was saying before about thinking about how media comes in between you and other things that you do, there are lots of influences on you in your life. And the reason for the image here is that, right, you've got family, school, peers, your religion, if you're a religious person, teachers, perhaps, what you eat, where you live, how much money is in your pocket. All of those things influence you, and media influences you, right? It's one of the many influences. What's important to recognize in this diagram and as we think about it is that the big difference between media and all of those other influencers is that if you do not have a strong set of peers, or you do not have a strong relationship with religion, or you don't have a strong family, or even if you're not eating correctly, healthy, or you're in a particular location in the world, media will fill in all of those missing pieces. So even though I'm drawing it in this picture as if everything is equal, of course it is not all equal. Depending on who you are, some of these pictures would be much bigger and some of them be much smaller. Some might go away altogether. But in your life, if you want to know something, you want to be involved in something, and you're not, media can fill that in. So media is an area of our lives that can be extremely influential because it could touch on all of these items and others. So it is sort of an ever expanding influence in our lives. You may or may not be obsessed with Snapchat and filters, but lots of people are. And this is maybe a funny way to get you thinking about this, but the filters that you have are the things about you, your background, your age, your culture, your experiences, your values, your beliefs, all of those pieces of you bring when you consume media. And so recognizing those influences is key. I may be consuming a television program that is very, very, very big in the US right now on Netflix is Squid Game. I don't know if that's as big with you. You'll have to let me know in the chat. You could write if it's really big. I'm seeing some nods from folks. It's so big. So it's a very violent story. It's from South Korea. It's very violent. It's just disturbing in a lot of ways. But when people watch it, they bring with them, they watch it differently if they are 60 or if they're 15. They watch it differently if they're from Philadelphia or from Yerevan. They watch it differently if there's someone who believes in the value of consuming media that was made in other cultures, or if they don't. So you come to your media with all of that, which means that when we all watch television together or we all see the news together, we take different things from it. And I want you to know that my perspective on media is positive. Like, I'm not here to say to you, media is horrible, you should be consuming less, the news is terrible. That's not how I feel about it. There certainly is there's better media than others, right? There's better news sources than others. And we'll talk quite a bit about how we think about those, choosing things that are good for us. But at the very base level, I see media as a really enjoyable part of people's lives. People get a lot of pleasure from it. They connect with family through media. And so when I'm talking to groups, especially if I'm talking to young people, I want them to know that that's how I feel. Because what we're going to do a lot today is be critical about media. And so the idea that you can love it and you can also be critical about it, you can hold both of those things at the same time, is important to realize. Because sometimes people feel that being critical about media means I can't watch it, or I shouldn't be binge watching my favorite show on an evening. But we have to find a way to hold both of those things together. So the amount of time that you're spending, I actually tried to find some statistics for global consumption in terms of how much people are on social media, how much they're watching television. We know, I mean, just generally, we know that people spend, this was before the pandemic, we know that people spend at least 5, 6, 7 hours a day engaged with media. So, and digital media, I'm really referring to digital media. So watching television and on social media, those would be the two, and on your computer, right? Those are the primary areas people are on using media now. The pandemic really shifted that. It shifted, a big shift that happened is that people stopped looking at the number of hours as a negative, because it was something we all had to do. So feeling upset that you had to be online, well, you might still feel this way, but you know, that you had to be online for 6 hours a day to teach or go to class, that was just the reality, or to connect with friends. That's just the way life was. So there's been a shift in the media literacy field. Instead of just talking about time, we talk now about the influence of it. And that influence crosses all of that amount of time. So the more you're engaging with anything, the more influence it's going to have. If you wake up every day and you decide, I'm going to learn how to knit, and you spent 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 hours a day knitting, learning how to do different stitches, learning how to do a sweater, learning how to do a hat, that would have an incredible amount of influence on you. If you woke up every day and had coffee from the minute you woke up to the minute you went to sleep, that would have an influence. So to think that we could engage with media for so many hours a day and not have it influence us is unrealistic. So reflecting on how we use media, why we use media, when we use media, and what kind of media we use is our first step to being media literate, to bringing our critical thinking to our media use. So let's talk about the actual definition of media here. This is a definition I've used for quite a bit, because I think it takes what are sometimes very academic definitions and makes it really connected to our lives. When I was young, many years ago, and I was in primary school, my teachers could not imagine letting me graduate, right? Meaning I was in primary school till 6th grade. They would not have let me leave 6th grade if I did not know how to read and write. That was the core communication methods: read, write. And reading is really consuming media, and writing is really authoring media. So one way to think about media literacy is as an expanded concept of literacy. It's all the ways that we can read and consume, and all the ways that we write or author. And so we think about media literacy as this expanded version of literacy. Even in some ways we could, I mean, there have been discussions about that, about not even calling it media literacy, but just referring to it as literacy, because you can't really be literate in the 21st century without understanding media. But a definition that is a little bit more academic, that gets quoted quite a bit, comes from the National Association for Media Literacy Education, that's NAMELY. That's also, so it's a US-based organization, and you can join that for free. So make sure you have information to that, because there are many people from all over the world that are members, even though it is a US-based organization. So the definition that Namely uses is the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, create, and act using all forms of communication. To be able to communicate today means knowing how to upload a video to YouTube. It means knowing how to create a PowerPoint. It means knowing how to send a text message. It means knowing how to do a Zoom chat. It's all part of how we communicate today. They are the ways that we author and consume media. The definition that's there, the word act, was actually added a few years ago. For when I first started working media literacy, we only said the ability to access, analyze, evaluate, and create. And there was some discussion about why, like why are we access, analyzing, evaluating, and creating? And we're really doing that because we want to do something with it. We want to take action in some way. And action doesn't only mean choosing who we vote for. Action can mean I have a free Saturday and I want to decide what kind of television show to watch. That's acting also, that's taking action. So there's actually a theory called uses and gratifications theory that says people consume media, they make choices about the media they consume to gratify themselves, to satisfy some need that they have. And that need can be to laugh or to cry or to connect, to learn, to be inspired, to be entertained. There's a need that pushes you forward, even if it's just a need to have something to do for an hour, right? There's always a need for that. So that definition, I'm going to come back to quite a bit. We're going to ground ourselves in that namely definition. Another core element of media literacy is this notion of habits of inquiry. Habits of inquiry, right, means habit, just doing that all the time, of inquiry, asking questions. A key element of media literacy is simply asking questions about the media that you use. If I were able to have the entire world have some tiny piece of media literacy that they could use, if all we did was learn to ask questions about media, we would be so much further ahead. So that when you're reading a news story, that you would say, I wonder who wrote this. I wonder why they wrote it. I wonder how long it took them to write it. I wonder who they talked to, but they had to edit out of the piece. Just, I wonder sorts of questions. You don't even have to have the answer to the question. Just the fact that you are starting to think about how it was created, why it was created, when it was created, what was the purpose of it? Like all of those questions encourage you to, remember, take that space between you and something else, the media is in the middle. It encourages you to think about that space, to not just have it be a transitory moment, but for you to actually pause in the middle and think about the influence. You've already heard me say media literacy, you've heard me say digital literacy, and you've heard me say media and information literacy. So I thought it'd be worthwhile just taking a moment to address that, because depending on who you talk to or who you hear from in the field, you might hear any number of the terms that are actually on the screen. Media and information literacy tends to be the term that we use globally. In the United States, you much more often hear media literacy. The difference, there's not, in a lot of ways, there is no difference between many of these things on the top. Media literacy in the United States is really the same as media and information literacy, but people don't use that term as much. Information literacy referred more to sort of the library and information side of the field, where media was dealing much more with the products themselves, the platforms themselves. And UNESCO brought those terms together. And that's why the center I run at Temple is media and information literacy. But you'll find that there are some people, and even in classes that you take or in work that you might do, you might just focus on advertising, or you might focus on cinema and film, you might focus on video games. All of those, to me, are part of the umbrella of media and information literacy. And so I don't want you to get too, don't get too concerned with whether what you call it, right? As long as you're in media literacy, MIL, we're all in the same, we're talking about the same skill sets, the same basic definition. And at its core, media literacy is critical thinking. I've got two computers going here so that I can keep track of things in advance a little bit. Let me just get myself aligned here for a second. Okay. And when I talk about media, I said digital media before because I want to differentiate. Lots of times when people are talking about media, they really mean digital media, but they say media. And media is not just digital media. So when I'm talking about media and I'm talking about media literacy or even media and information literacy, I am including books and magazines, radio, satellite, as well as video games and streaming services and apps. That's all part of media, right? This is just to clarify. It also includes social media and all of the elements of social media that we connect to. And, whoops, what happened there? Go back. And it includes us, because now we are media creators. And that's really shifted things quite a bit, because it means that when we think about being media literate and the influence of it, we're not just talking about them. We're not talking about someone else who does this, someone else who creates, right? It used to be that we were the consumers of media and someone else were the creators of media, but now we are the creators as well. So it's important not just to think about the questions that we ask of others, but the questions we ask of ourselves. Why are we creating this post? How did we create this post? How did someone else create that post? What benefit? How does it benefit me to create that post? And what are the influences on me that change what I decide to post? Whether it's an individual like me, myself, or it's an individual like Charli D'Amelio, who's in the picture on the right, who's the biggest TikTok. She has the most followers on TikTok. And she's like 16. So that tells us something right there. And something else that tells us something is this statistic. This was a survey that was done among children, and I believe it was children worldwide, not just US children. What do they want to be when they grow up? So it used to be when you ask kids what they wanted to be when they grow up, they would say teacher, and they would say what their parents were, right? Because when you're young, when you're under 10 years old, what do you know really about careers except the fact that you're in school and you know there are people that do that and you know the things that your family does, right? But now when you ask kids what they want to be when they grow up, the number one answer, and a pretty big percentage, 34%, are saying YouTuber. But even beyond that, number one says YouTuber, 2 says blogger and vlogger, 3 is musician, 4 is actor, 5 is filmmaker, 7 is TV presenter, 9 is a writer. So of the top 10 things kids want to do when they grow up, a high percentage of those are things that have to do with media. It is such a pervasive aspect of kids' lives from the moment they open their eyes, from the moment they're born, that is what they're thinking of. That's what they see, that's what they engage with. And even in the best uses of all of those. So you could be watching a YouTuber to learn how to knit, right? Or learn how to do any number of things. So you could be watching them for reasons other than entertainment, but still they're driven by what they see and the influence that they believe they have. So I'm not going to focus on that except to just say that it's interesting to see. I will say that they did this also in China, and the number one answer in China, when they just looked at Chinese kids, was astronaut. That was the number one answer. Number 2 was YouTuber, but number 1 was astronaut. So there are 5 key questions in media literacy. So I said habits of inquiry was key, right? And those habits of inquiry in media literacy are focused on 5 key questions. And these are questions that, as we go through today and tomorrow, and probably your subsequent sessions that you're going to have, the workshops in future weeks, I would really encourage you to keep returning to these 5 key questions. So let's see what they are. So the first one is, who created this message? And I've sort of said some of these questions already. Who created the message? I have 2 pictures up there. One is a screen grab from CNN, and one is from the TV show Shameless. So understanding the who created this message is a power question, right? And it's worded in a way that if you're talking to adults, if you're talking to students, talking to older students, right, college students, you can talk about the power that is involved in who gets to create the message. If I'm talking to younger children, just the fact that they can understand that there is a person that created the message is a big learning moment. So, you know, a television program doesn't just appear on TV. There are people behind the scenes that are making decisions to the micro level. Someone decides, just the way I decided what shirt to put on today, someone decided what shirt that actor should wear. Someone decided how their hair should be. Someone decided how far apart they should stand when they're on screen together. Every little decision is made by someone. So it is a created piece of content that you're seeing. It's not, and if it's created in one way, it can be created in another way. And that's where the power issue is. In news, if we're thinking about who created this message, it's critically important to be understanding that and thinking about it, because if you're watching something or you're downloading it, you're streaming it, looking at it on a social media feed, however you're consuming your news, you're looking at some sort of information. Did it come directly from the person who's sharing it with you? If I'm even watching, you know, a show like the picture that's up there and there are 4 people talking, those 4 people get to say what they want. So they created their own message, but who decided to choose those 4 people? Who decided to put them on that particular show? Who decided to have a program like that at all? So the ability for someone to look at something and take a step back and think about the decisions that went into who created the message. So that's authorship, and that's the first question. The second one is about format. What creative techniques are used to attract my attention? What did they do? So I have 2 pictures here that are from commercials, because commercials use lots of creative techniques to attract our attention. You know, it's the top picture is from an insurance company ad, and obviously this man, they've used special effects to make him look like he is a motorcycle. Excuse me. But there are so many ways in which people do things in media to attract our attention. They might choose a celebrity to attract our attention. They might make a character like from McDonald's to attract our attention. They might use music to attract our attention. And it might be even in news that they have. In news, I'm shocked how often I watch or see a news story that in some way involves either women who are in bathing suits or bikinis, or they go to a strip club, a place where women are dancing in either no clothes or minimal clothes, or they are using imagery in the news story that they think will attract people to watch it, right? So there are lots of methods that are used, and our ability to understand that that happens is key. So creative techniques that are used to attract my attention. The next one is purpose. What's the purpose of the message? It's not on the screen here, but I would say to you that the number one answer to that question all the time, 100% of the time, is money. That's the answer, money. What's the purpose of the message? To make money. No one, and I mean, okay, maybe there's one little sliver percentage that I may be wrong here, but almost everyone that is creating a message in media to share is doing it in part to make some money. Even if you don't want to make a lot of money, you may have a goal to make enough money that you can keep doing this. So even if I'm doing something in media, let's say I run a YouTube channel that provides help for after school for people who to learn math, to practice their math, right? And I'm doing that because I really care about math and I really want people to participate. I want them to learn. They have to use math their whole lives. And I'm not being paid directly to make my YouTube channel, but nor can I actually devote chunks of my day to making my YouTube channel unless I'm making money somehow on it. So that money might come in different ways. It may be cash. It might be that my community starts to learn that I'm doing it and I'm invited to speak to other groups. So I have some cachet, or I have some authority that I'm building up. I might make money because YouTube might notice that I am getting lots of followers. And so advertising gets placed beside my YouTube videos and I can make money from that. There are lots of different ways that value, that money can come to me, but it's likely that if none of that happened, I probably wouldn't keep doing it. So that's an important consideration. And of course, the bigger the media company, the more likely money is the predominant reason. So in these pictures, that's the cover of a Miley Cyrus song, a song that she released, and Big Bang Theory, one of the most popular comedy sitcoms globally. And in both of those cases, they're entertaining, they're funny. Well, in Big Bang Theory, it's funny. Miley Cyrus, very entertaining, but they would not be doing those things if they were not making money, right? So it's always important to remember that while the purpose may be entertainment, to make you laugh, to make you cry, to teach you, a core purpose is always making money. Number 4 question is about audience. How might different people understand this message differently? The people that are on that screen right now are just a smattering, right? Just 3 different types of people. All of us that are on Zoom right now, we are all different people understanding the message differently. Meaning that we could all watch, that commercial for the insurance, Progressive Insurance, and some of us might laugh at that. Some of might find it offensive. Some people might find it disturbing. People have different reactions to the media that they consume. So a core part of being media literate is understanding that, right? Is understanding that the way I see this media, just because I think it's funny, doesn't mean everyone thinks it's funny. Just because I think it's offensive and I think it should be taken off, doesn't mean that everybody feels that way. And so being open to understanding, not only recognizing that, but being empathetic, or at least opening yourself up to understanding how someone else might interpret the message. And the last one is about content. What values and points of view are represented or omitted from the message? This is a more complicated one. It's definitely one that is a little harder when you're talking to children than it is talking to adults. But the truth is that many adults that I talk to have trouble with this question. Because media is created, right, by an author with a purpose, using methods to attract our attention, embedded in the media are my values. If I'm the author, embedded in that media are my values, things that matter to me. And those decisions can come out in different ways in the media when you look at it. So these are 2 ads. One is for Smart Water with Jennifer Aniston, right, who was one of the stars of the sitcom Friends, and is pretty much a worldwide celebrity. And the bottom is a billboard for Coca-Cola. So think about what the value, let's think about the first one, the top one first. What values and points of view are represented or omitted? Well, a value that's represented there is that Jennifer Aniston likes to drink water, that Jennifer Aniston likes to drink smart water, that if Jennifer Aniston drinks smart water, then it's good water, that you could look like Jennifer Aniston if you drink that water, that a point of view that there's something natural, something uncomplicated about the water, because she looks like she's naked. She's saying, like, as if it's some private thing between us. So all of those things are communicated in that picture. There are values and points of view that are represented. Even the fact that you should buy bottled water, like that many people can get water just by turning on a tap. So some people cannot, but many people can. But that's not good enough. You should be buying a bottle of water. And just the name of the water, smart water, they did that for a reason, right? That drinking that water will make you smart. Not that it's going to change your brain, but it's a smart decision, right? To drink that water is a smart decision. All of that's embedded in it. And when we look at that picture as consumers, we really take a lot of that in without ever thinking about it. Now, someone else might look at this picture and think, oh, Jennifer Aniston, I do not like her. No, I do not. I didn't like her on Friends, and I don't like her now. And I would never drink that water if Jennifer Aniston drinks the water. Or they might look at it and say, boy, that's such a, you know, a wealthy person's ad that you're going to buy a bottle of water. You know, we don't need to buy a bottle of water. Or what wasteful packaging, right? That there's all this plastic in the world, there are environmental problems. And here they're talking about using more plastic to just clutter up our you know, waterways, and it's a terrible thing. There's nothing on here about recycling or anything. It's just buy a bottle of water. So someone else could look at this and be very offended. Let's think about the one on the bottom. And then I'm going to show you a picture after this. I'm going to ask you what the value messages are. So get ready. So the one on the bottom is a picture of Santa Claus drinking Coca-Cola. And then there's, right, it says Coca-Cola Open Happiness. Value messages and points of view. What are the value messages and points of view? Well, certainly one point of view is that Santa Claus likes to drink Coca-Cola, right? And if Santa's going to drink Coca-Cola, I mean, of course, you should drink Coca-Cola. That Coca-Cola can make you happy, right? It says open happiness. But another message in there. So lots of people look at this ad around the holidays and think, oh, it's so nice. There's little twinkles in there. It's very festive and it's red color. And they have a nice warm feeling about it, right? They like Coca-Cola and they like Santa, and Santa drinks Coke, all good. But if you are someone who does not celebrate Christmas, you have a very different feeling about this billboard. And, you know, I, for one, wonder about that. I am Jewish, I celebrate, but I'm married to someone who is not Jewish, so I celebrate Christmas and I celebrate Hanukkah. There's nothing about Hanukkah in that billboard. There's nothing about Kwanzaa. There's nothing about Eid. There's nothing about all sorts of holidays that people celebrate around the same time as Christmas. There's nothing about the Greek Christmas or, right, other Armenian Christmas, like other Christmases that are celebrated. It's a very specific Americanized view in a lot of ways of Christmas. And so many people could look at that billboard and be offended by that message. So the idea that there are points of view helps us also, connects very much to this notion, how different people can understand the message differently. Okay, so here's ours. So I'm asking you about author, format, audience, content, and purpose. So let's just do the first one. And I'll give you an answer to this one, since this doesn't have a lot of context to it. And you can put answers and put comments in chat, or if you want to raise a hand, that'd be great. And I'm happy to have others speak. So this is an ad that was created for, I mean, I don't want to answer too many questions. I don't want to answer too many of the things here. So this is an ad. The author of it was a candy company, Whitman's Chocolates. So it was made by Whitman's Chocolates and their advertising agency, and it was a magazine ad. So from there, let's talk about who do you think this is for? Who is this ad for? How might someone looking at this picture react to that picture? Who's the ad for? Here's my first, well, this is my second question coming to you, but we're going to have, I have some videos coming up too. So I want to encourage everybody to participate. Anybody want to speak? Want to raise a hand and tell us who do you think, what's one way that someone, an audience member, might look at this message and interpret it? What does it look like to you? Do you want this? Do you not want this? Yes, Miss Christine. Thank you for jumping.
Okay, thank you so much. It was really interesting to listen to you. And I want to say it's probably, for example, it can be a Valentine gift or something like that. So audience for maybe after 16 or 17 years old people, purpose can be some sweetness. Always when you are giving sweet gift, it shows your approach to it, that you love that person or something.
So one view might be that it's a Valentine's gift. And would you be happy to get chocolates like this?
Yeah, I love sweets. That's why.
Of course. Okay, so one way of looking at this ad, an ad for chocolates, is it's Valentine's. It's something you would give to a Valentine, and I like chocolate, and I'd be happy to get this. What might be other ways? Anybody else want to? So thank you. So is somebody else want to jump in about what's another way you might interpret that? What's another way someone else might see that message? How might somebody else interpret that? Anna?
I know there are a lot of people who do not accept this holiday, and they may be outraged, offended by this ad.
So some people might not accept the holiday. Yeah. Some people might just not like that, the idea of Valentine's Day. But somebody also might have recently broken up with someone and be really sad about Valentine's Day. Maybe last year, my boyfriend or my girlfriend gave me a box of chocolates that looked just like that. And this year, I'm going to be alone. I'm not going to have anybody else. I'm going to be very sad. So they might see this ad and it might have a very sad reaction to it. You see I thought I could see everyone's name, but now I'm not seeing. I'm going to stop sharing just for a second so I can see hands. So Anna?
I want to say something about contact. When we see the boxes like heart, we can think that if you give this box with chocolates to your boyfriend or girlfriend, you can say to her or to him that you love her or him.
Yeah,
contest, so maybe.
Right, absolutely. So we don't receive, even if you don't like chocolate, if someone gives you the box, it represents love. Right? But giving someone a box of chocolates is a representation of love. And that's a generally accepted understanding. So they put the chocolates in a heart-shaped box because they know they don't have to put any words on the screen at all. Right? If the chocolates are in a heart, like I showed this picture to you, right? And said, what do you think of it? And I would guess that many of you looked at that and immediately knew that it was supposed to be a chocolate ad for Valentine's Day, right? That is such an accepted visual message that you knew that that's what it was. So that is definitely one of those things. I'm looking at some of the chat, right? So a number of people with Valentine's Day. This could be for lovers, like a St. Valentine's Day cards. This box is very small to be Valentine's Day card. Yeah, I think say that some people might look at it and say, that is not enough chocolate for me, right? That's a really skimpy box of chocolates. If my husband gave me that box, I would not be happy. But I want you to think even broader. Like, what if you are someone who's really overweight and has been trying to diet, and you've been really trying to lose weight, and you see the ad. So I'm not even talking about the action of actually getting the chocolate. I mean, just seeing the ad, just the media aspect of it. If you're someone, so we're talking about understanding how different people might understand that message and what values are represented. So there's a value represented that you should get a box of chocolates. Somebody should be buying you chocolate for Valentine's Day, right? Somebody should be expressing, as Anna said, someone should be expressing their love through purchasing this item. If I'm someone who doesn't like chocolate, I might be not like the ad. If I'm someone who is diabetic, I might be really, that ad might trigger for me memories of how I feel if I eat sugar, and that makes me feel terrible. Any other kind of, what's another kind of person that might have a different kind of reaction to seeing an ad like that? Anything else you can think of? How would an ad like that be created? Somebody had to make that picture, right? I'm going to share the screen again. Somebody had to make that. I don't know if you've ever tried to photograph chocolates, but right, chocolates melt. If I'm a photographer and I see that ad, it comes through my social media feed, or I see it in a magazine, I might actually have a reaction of, I wonder how they made that picture, because it's not easy to make a picture like that and have the chocolates look that delicious and not look melted. They were under hot lights. I wonder how they did that. That's a really pretty box. Where did they find that box? Right? They might have reactions that have to do with the job that they have. If you work for an ad agency, you might look at this and think, boy, they didn't even put a caption on this picture. It really could have used a funny caption. So different people bring their background, right? Their experiences, their gender, their age, their socioeconomics to looking at it. Some people might look at that and say, that looks like an expensive box of chocolates. I don't know if I could afford to get that, but I wish I could give that to my, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my husband. Others might look at it, as I said, and say, well, that is a really small box of chocolates. Or I don't like those kinds of chocolates, right? If somebody was going to give me a box of chocolates, I would want it to be this. We have all these reactions just by looking at the image. So author, who created this picture, format, what creative techniques are used to attract my attention? Well, really just the fact that it's a box of chocolates is pretty attracting to a lot of people. But there's foil, that red foil on some of the chocolates. There's red, just the color red itself is a very attracting color. It's made to look, it's intended to look sort of rich, right? Expensive. There's ribbon below it, right? It's in a pretty box. So there's some special there's attention and things used to attract my attention. What kind of person, how might someone interpret this message about audience? We've talked about that. The purpose, to sell the chocolates, right? That's the purpose, to sell the box of chocolates. Just the idea that in order for you to express to someone how much you love them, you are supposed to buy something on Valentine's Day, and chocolate in a heart-shaped box is an accepted practice. That's an assumption. That's a value message embedded in this picture. Does that make sense? Just sort of how you would go through and think about that. Are you ready for another one? Okay. Let me see what time it is. I think let's we'll look at some video together, and then maybe we'll take a short break so that you can have we'll take a fast, or take a drink and a bathroom break. Are you okay with waiting a couple minutes to do that, or would you rather do that right now? I'm gonna stop for a sec. Stop sharing my screen. How many folks would like to take a quick break right now? Give me a hand up. All right, you're riveted. There's a few hands, but most are not giving me a hand. All right, so we're gonna stay. I'm sorry, Anahi. We'll do that soon, I promise. Okay. So the next one is your turn. Okay, so there are two commercials. What I'd like to do is, so together, I'm going to show you the one commercial. I'm going to play it for you twice, and then I'm going to put you in breakout rooms just for a couple of minutes, for like 5 minutes, so you can talk about the author, purpose, right? The 5 key questions, and then we'll come back and I'm going to ask you to share some of those things. Okay. Also, something that I think Ash said it in her introduction in the very beginning about meeting others and networking. There's no question that gatherings like this, that's one of the primary benefits of being together when we were actually together, right, in person. And so having ways that you can actually do that even through Zoom is important. So we'll do that. All right, I am going to show you this commercial. Let's hope that this works. I think the commercial is about a minute. That is not commercial, that is not, that's my PowerPoint. I messed that up. Let's try that one more time. Here we go. Yeah, it's 1 minute, so I'm going to play it twice. If you can't hear this, let me know.
And I would do anything for love. Oh, I would do anything for love. I would do anything for love. But I won't do that. No. No, I won't do that. Or that. Or this. No. Not this. Definitely not this. No, I just won't do. Happy thoughts. Happy thoughts. It's burning my eyes. Just not what you are thinking of. It hurts, but I kinda like it.
Okay, I'm gonna play it one more time.
Our parents would never let us.
Quiet. Wait, I think I have to get it. What just happened?
Put this much junk food in our bodies. So why do they think it's okay to put a bunch of junk on the planet?
I don't think it's gonna let me do it again. Let's see. Here we go. All right, don't mess with me. So look at the imagery, think of the author, format, purpose, content.
And I would do anything for love. Oh, I would do anything for love. I would do anything for love. But I won't do that. No. No, I won't do that. Or that. Or this. No. Not this. Definitely not this. No, I just won't do. Happy thoughts. Happy thoughts. It's burning my eyes. Just not what you are thinking of. It hurts, but I kinda like it.
Okay. So let's do this. All right. Hopefully you're all familiar with going into breakout rooms. I'm just going to give you a couple little things. So you're going to talk about the 5 key questions. We'll take about 5 minutes to do it. But as soon as you get into the room, the very first thing you should do is introduce yourself to the other person. Make sure you just take a moment to say hello, because that's a key part. Anybody have any questions about what you're going to do? All right. And I'm going to make it so you've got between, it's like, well, let's actually make sure you've got, yeah, it should be 3 people in each room. Here we go. For folks who, oh, okay. Can you see how the lighting in my room has changed? It's because the sun came up. When I first started, it was dark and I had my little ring light on because it's the only light, but now the sun is out, which is nice. Okay, so little by little, everybody's coming back in. So I'm just going to show, oh wait, let me see if I can do this. Share this part, right? Just quickly looking at this together. Just as a summary, right? Who created the message? What creative techniques are used? What's the purpose? How might different people understand the message differently? And what about the values, attitudes, and points of view? So who would like to begin? What are some of the interesting points about, let's talk about author. That's an easy one first. Who created this message? And if you don't feel like raising your hand and talking, you can put it in the chat. Who created this message? Don't make me call on you. You got a teacher here, you know?
Yeah, I go first, maybe.
Can you tell me how to say your name, please? Is it
Yeah, my name is Shushan. You can call me simply Shushan.
Okay.
So yeah, just a little introduction of myself. I'm Shushan from Armenia. I'm a journalist and content writer. Nice to meet you all. So for me, the first obvious, it was like M&M's, the one who created this video. And this is a clear advertisement with some techniques that will help people to get some emotions. And then we know that emotions can sell. So they will sell a lot of M&Ms because of the emotion they made by this advertisement. So we think that, yeah, this is the M&Ms who did this, and they use some techniques like music, songs, and some little humor just to attract people.
Yeah. That's terrific. Yeah. So, so first of all, you mentioned about M&M's being the one who created it. Let's even get more detailed. So,
like they could, I mean, not their, like they could make by some PR agencies or some marketing agencies, like they could create this for M&M's, for the company.
Great point. So that, I mean, that might seem very obvious to some of you that the people who work for M&M did not create this message. They probably hired a company.
Hire someone.
And that's a very normal thing to happen. But many people who watch commercials do not understand that that's how that happens, that a company hires someone else. And those are people that specialize in creating things like this, right? Just in terms of authors, anybody else want to add anything to the point about author? And then you touched on so many good points. I just want to make sure we talk about each of them. Anyone else about author? That's a pretty easy one in that.
Marketologs, like, you know, marketers, they just.
Yeah, and probably did like research beforehand where they talked to people about what they would like to see in an M&M's commercial, right? They surveyed them and then determined which color M&M they liked best, so they should feature that color M&M in the commercial, right? So they don't just like get together on a Saturday and we're like, hey, let's make a commercial. They put a lot of research and energy into it, and it costs a lot of money to make those commercials too. Okay, so
yeah, and even choosing the red one, like the red chocolate, it's like, you know, with meaning because it attracts people.
Are any of you, probably none of you are old enough to remember this, but any of you remember when M&M's their slogan used to be melts in your mouth, not in your hand? Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That was it. When I was a kid, that was the big sell for M&M's. They would have commercials where they would have other candy and they would pop it in their mouth and show you, and there'd be all these colors on somebody's hand. And then the kids would eat M&M's and it would be plain, melts in your mouth, not in your hand. But at some point, they decided that this touches on your point about the emotions. They decided that the attraction to eating the M&Ms would be stronger if each M&M was a character. So they changed it, and so it's not just that the M&Ms are talking or whatever. The red M&M has a personality. The green M&M is female. There's another commercial that airs where the green M&M like strips. She unzips her candy shell and reveals the chocolate underneath. She is a sexy character, female character. And if you ever look at the commercials where all of the M&Ms appear, this one only features one, but when they have all the M&Ms, each one is a very specific character. And they use those not only to make the commercial more interesting, but in the United States, and actually in other parts of the world too, there are M&M stores where you can go in and purchase products, and people will like want to have pajamas from the green M&M, a lunchbox from the yellow M&M. So people feel emotionally connected to a color of M&Ms, right? All right, so let's go back to the commercial then. Someone else, tell me something else about, so that was the author. So something else about either the imagery that stuck out to you. What's a way that they were trying to get our attention other than the personality of the red M&M? What else? What else did you talk about in your group? Yes, Miss Anna, go ahead.
First of all, for music lovers, this is attractive adverse. I'm a music lover and it was attractive for me. And second, I think during the advert, it is obvious that this is so delicious that everyone wants to eat that. And nice girls, beautiful girls, which wants to eat, it doesn't want eat, doesn't want to let it, but they want to eat in different skins.
Definitely
yeah, it was very true.
Yeah, there's definitely a value message in there that pretty girls like to eat M&Ms, that right, there's no discussion about the like whether they have high calories or anything like. There's no one's worrying about eating too many M&Ms. It's very attractive people wanting to eat the M&M. Definitely. Anahit, go ahead, you take it away next.
I had an impression that this ad was ordered by parents whose kids love eat a lot of M&Ms, and after this ad they won't eat it because they valued a lot these M&Ms, and every time when they try to eat it they will remember this ad. I think, I don't know.
that can happen.
And
yeah.
Yes, it had an opposite effect, I think.
That they won't like the M&Ms because of it.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's interesting. Okay. Kanush, am I pronouncing that right?
Yeah, I know that my name is a nightmare for people who are not acquainted with it. But when we talk about this commercial, actually the way these red M&Ms interacted with the girl, so actually it was a collaboration where people and these red M&Ms were included. It was very vivid, and even if you don't like it, it's really impressive. It gets your concentration, your attention, and you're just watching what's going on, how it will be end, how it will end. So yeah, it's very impressive.
You brought up something I think is really important to talk about in analyzing this commercial, and that's the relationship between this very attractive young woman and an M&M. So there's this bizarre, like, romantic relationship.
How is it impossible? How is it possible?
What is that? That's such a bizarre thing so she's like in love with the M&M, but what does she do to express her love? Like, she's in theory, I would do anything for love. It's all about love, but it's really, there's a deeper meaning. I don't want to put my analysis into it yet. Because if your other folks want to come in. Nini, did you want to add something?
Yes, the author tried to represent that M&M's, the personified M&M's chocolate, is the best partner of attractive women. So you will be like honored to try it like M&M's because it will do anything for you.
Right.
The relationship.
That's such a great point. Such a great point. Something that really disturbed. One of the reasons I like to use this commercial, and this was a commercial that was used during the Super Bowl, the big Super Bowl game one year. But one reason I like this commercial as analysis is just for me personally. I love chocolate, but I find this commercial very disturbing because, okay, first she has a relationship with the M&M, but what is the relationship? It's very abusive. It's very abusive. He says, I would do anything for love, but I won't do that. But she doesn't listen to him. She eats him. She tries to put him in a bowl of M&Ms. She smothers him with whipped cream, and he says, it burns my eyes. It burns my eyes. She puts him in an oven, and he's pushing, like, don't put me in the oven. There's something really creepy about the whole commercial. And I've watched it many times now, and it's still creepy to me. So I think, I like to use, let me say this. I I very intentionally picked a commercial that seems to just be like a silly, funny commercial, because I want you to recognize that, first of all, we can ask, it is important to ask media literacy questions about all the media we consume. It's not just about news. It's about everything. It's all around us. Everything I do, every time I scroll, I should be aware of what the messages are that are being communicated to me. Also, sometimes when people are resistant about analyzing media, they're not resistant about analyzing fun media, funny commercials, things that they think are like light. But the truth is that there are embedded messages in all of it. There are embedded messages in serious content. There are embedded messages in reality shows. They're embedded, and by embedded, I don't mean that someone's trying to hide it from you. It's just that they're so part of the message that to pull it apart takes real effort. And there's a term that for the relationship, I'm going to write this in the chat. Right, there's a term called parasocial relationships. So when we have a relationship with a media character, a media or a person, it could be a real person in media or a character in media, where we feel this real emotional connection, but they don't know who we are. So you could say, like maybe there's an influencer on Instagram you like to follow, and you think that person is really funny. You think if they would meet me, we would be such good friends, right? I know everything about this person's life. I know what they eat. I know where they go. I have all this emotional connection to this person, and they don't know me. That's called a parasocial relationship. And that's what really builds when we're consuming media, because we feel, even in this commercial, we feel that we know the woman, especially if you're female and you watch this. It's really a commercial that is meant to appeal to women as the audience. It makes an assumption that women love chocolate. It is also communicating in a way that like it's enjoyable for you to be around chocolate. I think Nini made that point, that it's making a connection that this is something that is good for you to be connected to, and that it will satisfy you in some way, right? So that when we watch that, we feel that as a parasocial relationship, and those can be very strong. They can be positive in some ways, but they're more likely to sort of twist our minds into thinking that something exists that doesn't really exist. So it's really important to be conscious of that. Somebody had a hand. Nita, did you want to add something else? I thought someone else had a hand up. Okay, let's do one more. So this is also a light commercial in terms of like, it's humorous, but very different in its approach. And it's shorter. This is 30 seconds, so we will watch it twice. And hopefully this will work. Here we go.
Grubhub Perks give you deals on the food you love. The kind of deals that make your boogie. Get the food you love with Perks from Grub What You Love.
I don't know if you have Grubhub where you are, but it's a
Grubhub Perks.
Stop. But I'm sure you have a service. So Grubhub is a food delivery service, right? Like they'll go to a restaurant and bring you the food to your home. So let's watch that one more time.
Grubhub Perks give you deals on the food you love. The kind of deals that make your boogie.
I really think about audiences too.
Get the food you love with Perks from Grub What You Love.
Let me make sure I stop that, or who's going to keep going. Okay. So same thing. We're going to go into breakout rooms, a couple of minutes. I'm going to recreate them so you get to talk to different people. Let's see. Here we go. Is everybody getting an invitation to join? I'll give everybody a minute, a couple seconds to get back. I think we may have lost some folks. That's okay, we can talk about it. Okay, so let's jump to some of the, not just the author question, because that, right, we know that it's a commercial and it's, right, same basic idea about the author in terms of the ad agency that created that, right, and put the commercial together. So what are some of the ways in which what are some of the tactics they've used to attract our attention? What are the tactics within this commercial that they've specifically used to attract our attention? So Nina, you go first, and then I'm gonna, folks who, if you want to, you can put information in the chat. So if you feel like you don't want to speak for whatever reason, and then I'm really gonna encourage lots of folks to raise hands and add a little piece of info there. So go ahead, Nina.
The techniques, maybe like music, dancing, there was colorful, this whole commercial. It was real joyful and targeted to families. It also represented that the Grubhub can bring you to another world now, far away from your home.
Yeah, something that's interesting that I want to highlight in what you're saying is that, so this is a commercial that obviously, if I'm grabbing this commercial, it played in the United States, but the music is has a feel to it. So it's part of a popular song. I mean, that riff with the flute was part of a very popular song a few years ago. But the sound itself, even if someone didn't know that, sounds like it comes from a different part of the world, right? If you live in the United States, that music sounds like it came from another part of the world. So that is sending a message about who they're trying to connect to for this commercial. How about the people that were in, like, actually the cartoon images? Yeah, Rima, you want to jump in?
Yeah, if I can, I'm sorry I cannot switch on the video, but I can speak. As we discussed in our separate room, the commercial, which was more like the cartoon style, maybe somehow it also reminds of the Family Guy family. And their major message was that Grubhub can satisfy the needs of the whole family that has diverse needs and necessities, starting from the kid, ending with the pregnant woman. As I noticed, one of the ladies that was dancing with milkshake, she was pregnant, which means that Grubhub can deliver both junk food and very food meant for pregnant women and for kids. So they cover all diverse needs of the whole many-membered family. So this is what I get from the message.
I think that was great. Yeah, and so they went out of their way. So you might think that a commercial that is relying on animation, right, with cartoon images, that's for kids. But actually, in terms of a method used to attract people's attention, animation is a very powerful way to grab someone's attention. And the animation style was exaggerated in some ways, right? They weren't meant to look, they clearly look like people, but they were exaggerated. Some of their body parts were exaggerated. The way they danced, so when they came at the camera, it really made them look extra blown up, right? And then came back. And that, I think, great point you made, Rima, about the variety of people that are featured, right? There's so many different types of people that are featured, different skin color, different sizes, different ages. So it's really powerfully trying to communicate this message for the whole family. I think that was a great point.
Yeah. I just wanted to add, like we could see here, like characters which are unreal, like we saw in M&M's video commercial, you know, we are connected with people who don't exist, but still they are characters. They like dance, they eat, they do something, they communicate with each other. Also, I wanted to add that not only the wide variety of the people with different races and colors and so on, ages, and also the variety of food they can order, like salads or something for pregnant women, like this. All I think it also can be here, like variety of different cultures, you know, mix of different cultures and traditions and cuisines and so on.
Yeah, that's a great point. And there's a note in the chat, so maybe this commercial would not touch your heart if you live alone, if you're homeless, right? If you're, depending on what your situation is, or maybe you're someone who like feels like you always have to order out, right? Maybe you don't like to cook, but maybe for whatever reason, you feel like that's the only thing that you do is order out, right?
Can I also add something? We were discussing in our group that this is also like time saving for women who are so tired they cannot cook, and maybe they will spend some quality time together by ordering something and not cooking. Maybe also this.
Sometimes we have to think about what they chose not to say to really make it clear the choices that they made about what they decided to say, right? They could have made a commercial that was a mom coming home from work saying, gosh, I really wish I could make my family a wonderful dinner tonight, but I'm just so busy today. I'm going to call Grubhub. Like, it could have been a commercial like that, but instead they made the whole feeling of connecting with Grubhub about fun, just about fun for everyone. There's no judgment in it, right? There's no judgment about like, well, you shouldn't be working then, or, everyone should be cooking a meal at home. No judgment. It's lots of different people enjoying and getting in touch. And so there is a value judgment in there that's a good thing to do. It's okay. It's okay to have food delivered, even if you are one of these different kinds of people, right? It's not just wealthy people that call and have their food delivered. It's all kinds of people that call and have their food delivered. Anit, did you want to add something else?
Yes, but on the other hand, it is, if you are for a healthy lifestyle, you will be afraid to even look at this ad, I think, because in this ad, their character very fat, and I am afraid to look at all of these because it can be like opposite effect.
Right, they're not stressing call Grubhub for healthy food. They actually left out that point altogether, right? They don't talk about the food really at all. There's no
they don't talk, but on this ad we see just only a burger or sushi or I don't know, milkshake and any healthy food.
Right, it's fast food, right? It's a lot of fast food. One part of what I'm saying is that they could have, because you can order anything you want from Grubhub. You could order salads from Grubhub. So it's the choice you make. So rather than even tell you can, that's not even part of the advertising pitch, is not even to say, so there's no value message in there that says, we can get you any kind of food you want, or we can get you healthy food if that's what you want. That's not the point of the commercial. The point of the commercial is just to make you feel like it's fun to get in touch with Grubhub. Like that's fun. People smile and have a good time when they call Grubhub. That's really the strongest message there. So Ankush, did you want to add something else?
Yeah, actually, I just imagine myself coming home after university, after classes, and I'm really tired, just exhausted, and I want to deliver something. And when I watch this ad, this fun music, I would say that it would make me annoyed. I would be annoyed because I'm really hungry. I'm starving, yeah, and you see these people, they're just hanging out and you're exhausted. Actually, yeah, this target audience, I just think that it's really broad target audience here, but they just make it shorter, maybe. Yes,
I
this would be more appropriate.
If we had time, I would love each one of you to even just weigh in of like, you know, and to, you know, sort of on a scale of 1 to 10, did you like this commercial or not? 1 that you didn't like it, and 10 that you did. Actually, why don't we do that? 1 that you didn't like it, 10 that you did, and put the number in the chat on a scale, just whether you liked it, just liked it, 1 to 10. 1, I did not like it, all the way up to 10 that I did like it, because part of what's interesting in having, this is why I like to get your comments, is helping each of us to understand that people interpret these things so differently. And that interpretation is going to come through, even if what they're interpreting is a news story. Like the same background, the same emotions that I have, that I bring to watching this silly commercial, I also bring to the news that I consume, to the games that I play, to the movies that I watch. It's me, right? I'm bringing me to that. Thank you, Tiona. Tiona feels conflicted about this one. She kind of likes it, kind of not. All right, I think we should take a break. That's my feeling. I think everybody needs a quick break. So, uh-oh, Anana's at the 2. Let's take a break. It is, I have 4 minutes before the top of the hour. So let's come back 5 minutes after the hour. So for me, it'll be 8:05. I don't know what time it is for you. 3:05, maybe? 4:05? But think 5 minutes. So 5 minutes after is when we'll come back. Okay, so you'll have, it's about 7 or 8 minutes that you'll have. That'll give everybody a chance to go back and come. All right, I'm going to turn my camera off, but I will be back here sooner in case anybody has a question, and we'll talk when we come back. All right, thanks everybody. We'll come back in a couple minutes. I'm trying to just get something queued up. Give me one moment. Thought I had it open and then it wasn't open. Okay, make sure I got everything set here. Well, welcome back. So I want to switch gears a little bit or change our focus a little bit to talking for our remaining time about social media. But before I switch us a little bit into that area, I want to make sure we do have time for questions, which I can leave at the end as well. But I do want this to be useful, really useful for you and the work that you do. So are any questions arising or any things that we've talked about so far that you have comments or questions about or want to add anything? And Shushanik, is that a remaining hand or do you have a question now? I'm not sure if that hand might be up from before. Anybody have any questions? It definitely would be one of the things that I'd love to know more about, and it can definitely influence tomorrow as well, is, and you can put this in the chat or we can talk about it, is how you feel, do you feel at all connected to media literacy already? Like, have you, in the work that you're doing or in your personal lives, feel that you already you're either talking about it, thinking about it, have had classes about it, are teaching about it, or comes up in work with the journalism that you do? Are there any connections that you've had to it already? I had asked a question before today to DCN about what I should assume about your understanding about media literacy. And so I wanted to make sure that we were all starting at the same place, but it's really helpful to get feedback, especially because I know I'm going to see you tomorrow. And the other just reminder I'll say now, and I'll remind you at the end again about tomorrow, is that there's a link that was, I think it was emailed to you and posted in the WhatsApp group chat with a quick survey about how you get your news. So it should take you, I'm going to say at most 5 minutes to do. I think it's 10 questions. They're fairly quick. And then that'll just help me to understand where you are with things. Then I'll share the, not the individual replies tomorrow, but the collective replies I can share with you tomorrow so that we'll be able to talk about it. Any questions that have come up or thoughts? All right, well, I'm going to leave a couple minutes at the end, so hopefully you'll have some questions at the end too. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. Oh, let's go into here. Yeah. So the focus on social media, or the interest and focus on social media, has grown tremendously, obviously, with people who are media literacy practitioners and media literacy scholars. And some of that is that we've now been on social media for enough time, we've now been using it for enough time, that there's more data available about it. And you probably, how many of you, maybe you can just give me a show of hands, how many of you saw the news over the past like 2 weeks about the reports that came out about Facebook and the woman who was the whistleblower, and she was actually speaking to Congress in the United States. So there was a whistleblower from the company, and one of the things she shared was about the fact that they had done quite a bit of research at Facebook about the impact of Facebook and social media, and particularly knew that there was data that said that Instagram in particular was very toxic to younger girls, like tween girls, and that they knew that, and that they didn't make any changes and share it. Have you heard about this Anybody hear about this news? You can do me a hand raise or anything. So I do think so. I'm glad I asked that question then, because it's only a couple of hands that have gone up. Every once in a while, there'll be a whistleblower about something and about some company and about some actions. But there has never really been someone who was a person at a social media company who was positioned in a way that actually had been involved in some of the decisions about how the company was designing some of their services and just the ways in which the navigation, the way in which people would interact. And I think the reason that she's gotten quite a bit of play, so part of the story, I'll try to get let me write myself a note. I'll try to get a good story link about it and send it to you before tomorrow so you can take a look at it. So when she left Facebook, she left with thousands of digital versions of thousands of documents. And she made those documents available to, I think it was the Washington Post, and the Washington Post has written a series of articles called the Facebook Files. And then their analysis of that has gotten picked up by other media. And then the woman who was the whistleblower was interviewed by 60 Minutes, which is a news magazine that's been on television in the United States for 50 years, a very, very long time. And so very reputable news source. So she was interviewed by them. The only reaction that has come out, I mean, little pieces of this are coming out being reported, and I suspect that will continue over, could even be over the next year or so. But she specifically wanted to communicate that Facebook knew, like that Facebook knows what it's doing. It knows the power that it has. It knows the addictive quality of it, and it doesn't care. Right? That's one of her main points that she's been sharing. And so it's interesting because there is more research that comes out about people using social media and the impact that it has. But having that research plus someone to talk about it, you would think would be quite a strong indictment of the company. But on my social media feeds, which have quite a bit of, as you can imagine, media literacy scholars and communication scholars, several people have been writing about the fact that they feel that we should not be blaming social media, and that it's really us, like we make choices about the media that we consume. It was a very media literacy sort of take on it. But one of the things that is critical to the discussion of media literacy and this issue of responsibility is the idea that everyone is responsible. So whether it's making the world a better place or making social media better or making your television better, whatever it might be, that takes, it takes a village. It takes parents thinking about it. It takes educators talking about it in their classrooms. It takes workshops like this where we have conversations about it. The media companies themselves paying attention to it and being willing to engage in that, offering journalists writing stories about it and highlighting those issues, government providing some regulations. So all of those things have to come together. There's not a single one of those areas that could solve this problem. One of the reasons that we have workshops like this is because too often we point our finger at others, at the companies themselves to make change, as opposed to the changes and the responsibility that we need to take. So I do feel strongly that we need to take responsibility for our media use, but we can't solve the problem ourselves. It really, everybody has to come together. Folks who did see who are aware of the Facebook files, and Aaron, I know you had your hands up there. Any comments? Anything you want to share about that? How was it covered? Was it in the news around you?
I'm not sure it was covered widely in this case, particularly in the Armenian media, but I've got the news from the international media platforms. Honestly, it was kind of not something very difficult to track, because it was kind of obvious, but it's very not worthy to get that information from inside, because yeah, it was very obvious that they are promoting the content that is harmful and can get should I just give a hint what we're talking about?
Sure, go ahead.
Yeah, because basically the former employee was explaining how Facebook uses its algorithms to promote the content which has more kind of, let's call it hate speech or aggressive content, because we are all human beings and we're interested in kind of drama. So the chance that we will get engaged with that content is higher an ordinary like post on the social media. And that's how the social media makes its money. So they are earning on the time we are spending in their platforms. Basically, they need to do everything possible to keep us as much possible there, reading the post and at the same time consuming the advertisement. So basically they are promoting the content that will keep us there more and more, which is the aggressive comment, which can separate and divide the society. On the other hand, trying to be as simple as possible.
And embedded in the comments you're making are the basic media literacy questions that we've been talking about, right? So this is why I always return. I mean, even after all the years I've been teaching about this too, I always return to the 5 key questions. I find them to be a really grounding way to think about whatever happens in media. So you think about the influence of social media. So let's just take Facebook for one. So who's the author of that content? So it might be very easy to initially think, well, I'm the author of my content, right? I go on Facebook and I add posts. But the essence of how Facebook works is that I'm sharing those posts, right? I'm sharing them with my friends. So when I am looking at the content that's on my social media feed, it's not content that I've created. It's content that others have created that I get to see. But which content do I get to see? So the author might be all my friends that, content that they make, but we know Facebook's very clear about this. Like, we do not see all of the posts that all of our friends make. There is an algorithm that is used to determine which friends' posts we would prefer to see. And then those posts are shared with us more often. So if you frequently respond to a friend's post, either with a little, a like or a love or something, or you actually add a comment, that raises up the likelihood in the algorithm that that person's post will be shown to you. Whereas I have some friends that, I never see posts of theirs. I don't know why I never see, I do know why, but I never see posts of theirs. And if I actually go into their page on Facebook, I can see that there are posts that I've not been shown. So the author of the content on Facebook is not just us as individuals, it is Facebook also, right? What creative techniques are used to attract our attention? Well, Facebook did research. If you've been on Facebook for a while, you may have noticed things that evolve over time. So in the beginning, when people were first posting on Facebook, it was mostly text. Then people started to add still images. And then at some point, Facebook did research and they discovered that people are more likely to stop and look at something if it's video. And they shared that knowledge with the users. So then users said, well, I want more people to look at what I do. I'm going to put something moving, right? I'm going to put some video in my post. So we know that we're more likely to stop, and Facebook knows that we're more likely to stop on video, content that's video. So a creative technique used to attract our attention are videos. A creative technique also are the emoji choices. For a long time, all you could do was like thumbs up. Then they added the heart. They, within the last year or so, added the care, right? The hug sort of image. And they continue to look at, they don't want to make, but think about the choice that they've made. Obviously there are hundreds of emojis. They could, if they wanted to, make all of those available to us so that we could leave a much more specific comment in the comment section on our social media. They have chosen to only give us a choice of, I think, 5. And sometimes they think about adding another, but it's a big decision. They only give you a certain number because they know that you're much more likely to leave a comment if your choices, that the ones you can select from, is a limited number. If every time you wanted to leave a comment, you had to look through hundreds, you would be less likely to do it. And they know that you adding a comment makes you feel more connected to social media. So they want you to leave comments. So they're making it easy for you to do so. So that's a creative technique that is used to attract your attention. Perhaps one of the biggest, I'm going to share this is my Twitter. Oh, well, let's hope it came back. Okay. So this is what's on my Twitter feed right now. This is a live Twitter feed of mine. There have been a lot of articles written about the retweet and Twitter's decision to include the retweet. So when they were designing Twitter, they had a choice. The people that actually designed it have written about this, that they were trying to decide whether to allow people to retweet. How do I say this? They had to decide whether if you saw something you liked and you wanted to share it, did they want to require you to actually click through and look at the thing that you liked before sharing it, or did they want to make it possible for you to share it without ever looking at it? And ultimately, they decided they were going to allow you to share it without ever looking at it. So if it's in your feed and you see it and you like it, you can hit that retweet button. It will be shared among the people that you know, and you don't ever have to have looked at it. Now, in the time that they decided to do that, they probably never thought about the catastrophic advancement of misinformation and disinformation made possible by the retweet. But the ability for people to retweet so easily, many people just go through their feed and hit retweet everything. So they're not actually looking, they're not deciding this is a good source, this isn't, I like this, I don't, this is funny, this isn't. They just retweet it because it makes it look like you have a more active feed. And if you have a more active feed, Twitter will feature you more. So these decisions that the authors of the site make about how the site functions tremendously affect what we actually get to consume. That was a kind of complicated explanation. Anybody have questions about that? And I love your comment there, and says, but all that narrows down to our capability of expressing our feelings. It creates a manipulative image of public perception. Right, it absolutely can make us think that people feel a certain way about something when they actually have never stated that they feel that way. They've just shared information about it, right? We're going to spend much more time on that topic and this idea of the algorithm and verifying information and privacy issues. That's really, we're going to focus on that for our entire time tomorrow. Right now, what I really want to have you start to think about is the 5 key questions, really the 5 key questions around social media. Let me go back. All right, so my question here was, can we be critical media thinkers even when we're on social media? And we must, right? So this is one statistic I was able to find. So this is from July 2021, so it's relatively recent, and it's looking at social media use around the world. So the total number of active social media users in the billions. What this doesn't provide. So if we look at this data as with our media literacy lens on, which is always important to do when you're looking at an infographic, is what is it not telling us? So just to take one, it's the very first number says total number of active social media users, 4.48 billion, which sounds like an astronomical number. What it's not telling us is how many people are there in the world. So it's 4.48 out of how many people, we don't know. However, the next point says social media users as a percentage of the global population, 56.8%. So when you think about the number of people in the world and places where we know they are less likely to be using social media, and then think about the 56.8%, you get a much better picture between those first two data points that it's actually a very high percentage of, certainly a high percentage of the, of the democratic societies around the world, of folks who have daily, easy internet access, they're on social media, right? That is primarily, and for a lot of folks, access to social media is their primary connection to media completely. It's where they decide what to watch. It's where they get their news. It's where they talk to friends. Everything is in the social media feed, right? One of the most telling, this was attached to an article, and one of the points from the article that I highlighted at the very bottom says, more than 4 in 5 media internet users are using social media to access the news. So I'm just going to leave that there because you're going to take a survey about where you access the news, and we're going to talk about this tomorrow. So that's just meant as like a little it's coming into tomorrow. So let's talk about YouTube and TikTok for a minute. YouTube and TikTok. This article came out in September, so it's relatively recent, because something really big happened in September. And that is that for years and years and years, almost since YouTube started, YouTube has been the top destination of people when they are engaging online, when they're engaging in some digital communication. YouTube was at the top, by far at the top. And TikTok has slowly been inching up. But in September, TikTok surpassed YouTube in viewing time per user. So it has become, depending on sort of how you look at it, so this is viewing time per user, right, is surpassed the amount of time that people spend on YouTube. So I'm curious, how many of you are on TikTok? How many folks are looking at TikTok? You can just give a hand raise if you want. That's an easy way to do it. How many folks are using TikTok? And so shockingly, only one hand is up. Tuckle, you're the only one whose hand went up. Should we believe everyone? Do you look at it every day?
No, not every day. Sometimes when I have free time and just relax. But I don't take videos, just scrolling.
That was going to be my next question. Have you participated? We're not going to track you down. Don't worry. Has anybody ever made a TikTok video? So I'll tell you, when I was visiting Armenia, and one of the things we did one day was I was in Yerevan, right? So I was in the city, but one day we took a ride like it was mountainous to me, into the mountains, and into a school that was in a very rural area. We were going to meet with a couple of the teachers there, and they are kindergarten teachers. And we were sharing information about media literacy, but they were telling me how they are all on TikTok, and that's where they spend most of their time online. All they wanted to talk about was TikTok. That was their focus. Aaron, did you want to comment on that? Are you on TikTok?
No, I'm not, and that's what I was trying to comment about, because particularly in the Armenian, like in the sphere of the field of journalism, it's kind of a shameful thing to be on TikTok. So most probably you'll be criticized and blamed for being there. But what I've been noticing, sorry?
Why?
It seems like a very childish thing to do. This is how I've been kind of told and seen. Maybe some of my colleagues would disagree on this too, but I've been seeing that people who kind of trying to avoid TikTok are going to Instagram. So it's basically the same technique, but it's more prestigious to be on Instagram Reels than on TikTok. So they're doing the same on Instagram, but still they're there. And well, I have an Instagram Reel too. I've tried once to see how it works, but I did that. But I've never been on TikTok.
Well, I'll tell you a couple thoughts I have. So the first one is something that you should a more general comment is, if you are intending to work in media for your career, then whenever a new app or something in media becomes so big that it's newsworthy, that people are talking about it all the time and millions of people are using it and it's become part of pop culture, you owe it to yourself to experience it. It's important to personally experience it, not just read about it, but experience it. And I've had that happen, because I came of age before the internet. And so really, as new things come, more new things come, I make a really conscious effort to participate in it, because it feels very different than watching. So when Twitter first came, I could not get Twitter. I just didn't understand why people liked Twitter. I just couldn't get it. I saw no need for it. I just didn't like it. But obviously lots of people did. And so I really spent some time. I just made myself use it more, look at it more. I don't use it. I'm not suggesting that you have to do it for like an hour every day, but the difference in what it feels like if you actually go on and use it yourself versus what you read about is important. In the case of TikTok, many news organizations are sharing their information and videos on TikTok. That's where they're getting seen. So they put them on Instagram also, they put them on Facebook, but lots and lots of people are actually seeing them on TikTok. Shush, you look like you're like,
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to add something. I think that it depends who your audience or who your target are. Because, for example, in Armenia, TikTok mostly is used by teenagers, like 14, 13, 15 years old. So if you are politician or you have some news like political news or something with connected with economy or financial issues, it would be not interesting for 15, 16 years old. So it doesn't matter just to be there, just to just for presence there. It doesn't matter, because no one is going to watch your videos. Of course, it's okay if you are a journalist, it's okay to know that something like TikTok is existing in the world and sometimes to watch. But I remember we have a new woman elected to work in a government, and she had a TikTok, and everyone was shaming her because of her TikTok videos. Like, if you work in a government, you just cannot use it.
Right.
But maybe after 3 years or 5 years, things gonna change and it will be okay. Who knows?
Well, I think what's likely, that's a great point. I think what's likely to happen is, and this goes back to sort of a media literacy perspective, TikTok is a global company. TikTok's goal, as every company's goal, is to make money and make more money next year than they made this year. So they're always looking to grow. If TikTok is popular in certain ways, in certain places, and they're looking to grow, they're going to figure out ways to make it more popular in other parts of the world. Now, they may not be successful in all of those, but they're certainly going to try. And the likelihood is that if it's that popular over here, even if it's the United States and maybe South America, maybe it's other parts of the world, maybe other parts of Europe, if it's that popular, then there are sort of the values of TikTok will get picked up in other places. So there have already been articles that have talked about how YouTube is changing the platform to be more like TikTok. Because if people are going to TikTok more than they're going to YouTube, YouTube's not going to like that. So YouTube is going to try to make changes to emulate some of the things that are most popular. You can see that in something like the way Snapchat, Instagram, and Facebook developed. Some things like Snapchat in the beginning was the only place where you could put filters. You could make those silly things on, right? You could upload videos or do still images and put filters all over your face and distort your face. And it totally was something that only young kids were doing. Who else would put a sticker on their face when they're uploading something? But Snapchat was so popular that a lot of the elements about the way that was constructed started to show up on Instagram. Then it started to show up on Facebook. And then, of course, Facebook owns Instagram, so it's going to show up on both of those. So when something is really popular in some other element, it's very likely another media company is going to pick that up and try to emulate that. And the fact that news organizations are posting on TikTok, global news organizations, tells me that that's going to grow. That if they're investing their time and energy, they're not investing their time and energy on TikTok because they think only 14 and 15-year-olds are watching. Now, that may be true in Armenia, that they're young, but the likelihood is that if it stays, it'll grow. And even still, I think it's a good idea just as a habit, because you may have there might be other places where people love to go online. When you hear about something or you see that it's got a large percentage of people are talking about it, using it, watching it, it's worth exploring it. Anna, do you want to add something?
Yes, a few months or weeks ago, I was discussing with my journalist colleagues the issue, is it possible to teach media literacy with TikTok videos, little videos, because as Susanik said, there are a lot of teenagers in Armenia which use TikTok, and they don't have a high quality of media literacy, and it could be possible to teach them how to be media literate with TikTok. I didn't agree with my colleagues which said it is possible. I don't agree that it is possible to do this with TikTok, and it can change something. And I wonder what is your opinion about this issue?
Can you just explain to me a little bit more? So why would it not be possible to teach media literacy through TikTok?
I think it isn't interesting the audience in TikTok to these teenagers who are in TikTok in Armenia. They are not interested in media literacy, I think. It's my own opinion. I don't know.
That's okay. That's okay. So I would say to you that if you can, it's important to teach media literacy about all the different media that we use. So it's important for us to create ways of having media literacy conversations around TikTok, around YouTube, around those digital assistants like Siri and Alexa, any of them, because they're all being used and they all influence us, and they are shifting the information we have. So I would say to you that it's actually vitally important to have a media literacy lesson around TikTok because people are using it. If people are using the media, I need to stick us in the middle of that fast, because I want them to be thinking about how, let me take a step back for a minute. The thing that people tend to really like about TikTok is it's fun. TikTok is fun. And I myself have had times where I have gone on TikTok and been laughing so loud, watched videos, laughing, and before I turn around, an hour is gone. It's easy. It's just funny. It's not fun. I don't feel that when I'm on Instagram. I don't feel that when I'm on Facebook. But when I'm on TikTok, I can find videos that I think are funny. I may not think a silly cat video is funny, but there's other videos that I think are funny. So what happens is when the serious content is mixed in with the humor, I am more likely to stay. I'm more likely to take it in because I'm in a very receptive mood. I'm in a feeling good, I'm laughing, I'm happy, and then something else comes in. Now, if I'm really in this happy mood, I may not want to look at it. I may scroll past it. But after a few videos, if the headline looked interesting and a topic I was interested in, I probably would stop. And that's what happens. It's putting you in a very receptive flow, and news organizations that are being smart about this are creating news that fits in that flow. So they are using some fun way or some interesting way to grab your attention so that they can tell you that serious story. So I think it's really important to help, especially young people, understand how manipulative TikTok is. Extremely manipulative, because you're just in this very flowy laughing moment, and if a political candidate comes on and makes a comment and is funny, let's say they post something that actually is TikTok worthy, a person who's of voting age but is under 30 years old might think that that is terrific, might really like that a lot. So I think just generally, whatever form of media you know that people are using, that is a media literacy lesson waiting to happen for sure. Okay, 2 hands are up. Nini, let's go to you first.
For someone, TikTok can be fun place, but for another, it can be educational or more informative. It's really depends on the algorithm and TikTok. When you download TikTok and start scrolling, it depends what you see, what you are. When you when you watch a certain video, the algorithm will determine your For You page, depend on it. So TikTok can be can offer a variety of information, not only fun and funny videos.
Yeah, as with any of the media that we consume, we always have to remember that what we're seeing is based on the algorithm and what it's showing us. And so, yeah, that's just an important point to remember. Anyway, Shoshana.
Yeah, I would like to add something that we had an issue in Armenia, you know, the war which started like last year. And during that war, everybody tried to spread information on social media. Also, some people use TikTok, and that videos went viral. Like they were talking about the war, how it affects civilians, like innocent civilians dying or something else. And it worked, really, it worked. Like it was emotional, it was sad, and we saw a lot of like videos, like people, like bloody videos also. It's kind of, you know, the war stuff, but it worked really. Like even I can remember that even Kim Kardashian used one of TikTokers' video, like she reposted, and it went viral, you know.
Yeah, it's a pretty, I mean, the whole, you know, the whole notion of things going viral really, you know, it's had a tremendous effect on what we think is important, right? Even if you don't see it, if you hear that something went viral, you want to see it, whether it's a silly video or a serious video, it has an effect on us. And you may feel, so a really important piece for this, especially as a journalist, is when you hear data where some data says this is happening and this is happening a lot. So lots of people are on TikTok or lots of people are watching this video, whatever it might be. And you look at it and you think, I'm not interested, or I don't believe it. Why would anyone believe this? Like whatever you might feel, you have to put aside your interpretation and think about how other people are seeing it, right? How might someone else see this understand this information? That basic media literacy question. You know, people will frequently ask me if I'm ever, you know, do I ever get duped, you know, in media? Do I take in fake news? Do I see misinformation? Do I retweet things I shouldn't retweet? Do I do that? Of course I do, because I'm human, and these especially social media platforms are really, really good at designing methods to encourage me to participate. So maybe I do it less and I'm more mindful about the choices that I make, but to think that I'm not affected, I'm a media user. Of course I'm affected. That's why it's so important to have these media literacy conversations all the time. It's not a one-time conversation and gone. You really have to be mindful, because next year some new thing will come out, and the year after that something else will come out, and I need to be on top of that, right? I need to know, because I could be, you know, people can be very manipulated if they're not mindful, right? That's what we really want in media literacy, is to be thinking about that. We're in our last 15 minutes, which is amazing. I want to just, so I'm going to share, I was going to have more conversation, but we don't have enough time. So I want to share some information about really, it's important to think about the benefits of social media and the concerns, and there are a lot of them. And so I'll share this with you, and you'll add to this, or I want you to, we can talk after I show you these two about what are the ones that are most concerning to you, right? So benefits, right? Learning about pop culture. People can do things anonymously on social media if they want to, or at the very least, you can look on social media without ever having an account. So you can do a lot of things anonymously. It's a great place to meet new people, connect to subcultures, meaning connect to things that are important to you, right? Micro things might be important to you. Like maybe I want to talk to professors who teach media literacy. I can find that group, right? Controlling social situations, the ability to actually text, right? And be able to think about what you're writing before you send something out or send an email, and to think about that first is very attractive to lots of people. You can stream TV, music, games, shop is a big part of what people enjoy about being online and social media. Learning about careers, getting news and political information, exploring health issues and sexual norms in ways that are not embarrassing, right? Looking up things that I've got this thing on my body and I don't know what it is, or I have the urge to do this. Is that normal? So you can do that on social media. It's available to you every single minute of every single day, right? It's always there. And most of the time, the way you engage with it feels free. We know it's not free, right? But we are not paying each time we use it. Someone is using the energy we spend, they're using it to make money in other ways. So it's mostly free. Take the edge off of homework or work in general, right? Just to kick back, enhance your network of friends, create a more confident personality than you have in real life. Lots of people like social media because they can be a person that they feel they can't be in their real lives, or test social norms. But the overarching benefit is that people feel it's fun. They like social media because it's fun to do. And so even if it's not fun for you, you have to remember that, look, as that data showed before, like a high percentage of people in the world are on social media. If it was upsetting them all the time, they wouldn't be on. They're on because they enjoy it. And how about concerns? So you can totally waste time, right, on social media. It can affect your focus and concentration. It really encourages this obsession with celebrity culture, right? People that are getting the most followers then get more followers because people want to follow the people who have the most followers. And celebrities will, we mentioned Kim Kardashian, right? So she owns the internet. She was the guest host on Saturday Night Live, which is a comedy television show that's been on in the United States since I was in high school. So, like 40 years. And she, in her opening monologue, she made a joke about how being on Saturday Night Live was like a night off for her, because on her own social media account, she has something like 5 million followers, and nowhere near that number of people watch television. So she was making a very poignant point that what she does in her social media is where all the people are, not watching TV. So other bullets say may negatively affect identity formation, dehumanizing communication can lead to cyberbullying, increasing narcissism, right? Everything revolving around you. Your identity really developing as a consumer above all else. Everything comes back somehow to purchasing. You're vulnerable to having private information stolen, access to lots of potentially dangerous or upsetting information. So I'm skipping that whole access, pushed into sexting. Sexting is texting someone nude pictures of yourself or nearly nude pictures. Decreasing social skills and intimacy. Mainstreaming thinking and activities, right? People starting to think that everyone thinks this way, and perhaps subjected to more peer pressure. So there are lots of reasons that we need to have conversations with people about their media use. Heavy social media, you can be a social media user and have a minimal negative impact from it because you're using it mindfully. You also have relationships in real life. Think about that original picture about religion and education and your family and all those things. So if you have a rich life outside of social media, then being on social media can be wonderful. Just have to be careful about that. The piece about, we don't have really time to dig into this today, but the shopping online and over shopping is actually a big problem, because you're treated as a consumer in your environments online, and you are given opportunities to purchase. So, Kim Kardashian, again, she shares often serious news information. She's been very influential in getting and speaking out about immigration and people wrongfully incarcerated. But she also has a clothing line, a makeup line, and you can scroll through her material, and one thing will be a very serious piece about a very newsworthy, serious article, and the next will be, this is where you can buy a bra. So there's a very influential environment that we find ourselves in with consumerism. There's a lot of access, right, I mentioned, to potentially inappropriate content. And that access really requires critical thinking. We don't have time to really evaluate TikTok here, and we don't have time to do our meme. I really want us to make a meme together. Maybe we'll do that tomorrow. We'll talk about memes tomorrow. That's what I'll do. I'll go back, and I'm going to just go to my last frame, because we don't, well, this was I'm speeding through because I feel very strongly that we have to make sure we end on time. But the 3 things I want you to think about are embrace, include, create. So this is actually there is #Armenian. That's where these images came from. So I want you to embrace your own enjoyment of media and use that as a starting point for the work that you do as a media literacy person, right? Include people from different sectors who are involved in media to broaden the scope. So you want to talk to educators, creators, influencers, journalists, NGOs, industry, regulators. Everybody needs to be part of this conversation. And then find ways to create, and this is actually what you're doing today, is finding ways to create a group of people that you can share information with to help one another to be able to bring this forward. And we will work together to advance media literacy. Yay. And that's my contact information there. Comments, questions? What's on your mind? And are there any things in particular that you want to make sure we touch on tomorrow that I haven't mentioned we're going to touch on tomorrow? Don't forget to do the news survey. Well, I'm grateful to talk with all of you. It's been really wonderful. I hope that tomorrow even more of you will take the jump and actually put your hand up and speak, because I'd love to hear from everyone. And maybe we'll take a minute or 2 in the beginning to actually everybody do a quick introduction, just so I can know a little bit more about you. And those of you who stuck through the 3 hours, thank you so much. That's awesome. And I look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow afternoon.
Thank you very much, Sherri. This, as you see this, I seated myself comfortably to follow the session on Saturday moods. So that has been amazing. And as always, educative, informative, and knowledgeful. Thank you so much, and looking forward to tomorrow. And thank you all the participants who have been with us from the beginning to until now, and looking forward to see you all tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Evening.
See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.